Daniel Pink, Gay Hendrick. Like, these are guys that you've interviewed on our podcast. I love their books. To Sell is Human, Drive, right? Autonomy, Mastery, and Purpose, The Big Leap. These are all like principles. These are, I consider those guys mentors. You've had the opportunity to interview them on your podcast.
Today, I am joined by Jim Fischer. He's the founder and CEO of Juicebox, Juicebox Partners, and JB Wealth, which is an SEC registered investment advisory. Jim, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm excited. This is going to be a great conversation. Round 2. Let's go.
We're doubling down. It was so nice. We're going to do it twice.
I love it.
Good. Hey, we've got a lot to get caught up on over the last couple of years. So, Jim, if you could, can you take us back to kind of the beginning? How did you even end up in this space? And by that, I mean, how did you end up working with life agents and financial advisors specifically?
Man, it was quite a bit of a journey. It started back in the early 2000s where I had the wonderful opportunity to work for a company you're probably familiar with. You might even be hearing this podcast or watching this video on one of their products, and that company was Apple. And I became what later understood as an accidental sales professional working for Apple in the early 2000s. Accidental, and I didn't know I was hired to be in sales. I just thought I was going to be like an ambassador, evangelist for a great product that I believed in. And I think that was what was so wonderful about learning sales from that perspective, was that I just got to, what we called it at Apple, enrich people's lives with our products. And if I could not find an opportunity to do that, then I wasn't expected to, make an offer or try to sell a product if I didn't believe that it would actually enrich that person's life. And so, lo and behold, I realized I had a target, a goal. Maybe some people called it a quota. And I was like pretty competitive. So I had these great products. I had a process I believed in to, provide solutions to real problems that I got clear on and uncovered in, just simple conversations with people that walked into Apple stores. And I got really good at it, and ultimately became the number one salesperson, and then became a corporate trainer. And over my time working for Apple, I, opened multiple of their retail stores, trained over 500 salespeople across the country for Apple, and became like a business specialist as well, where I worked in B2B. And in that journey, I was consulting people on how to grow their business, leveraging digital strategies, both software and technology. Social media was coming on. I was with Apple when the iPhone came out in 2007 as well. And so, I did a lot of consulting to create value in advance of perhaps presenting a product, hardware or software, iPhone, iPad, Macs, servers, all these types of things, to some pretty big businesses ultimately. I hit a wall though in my developmental journey. I realized that working at Apple, oddly enough, I wasn't going to become the person that I wanted to be. I didn't think it was going to be the vehicle to help me reach my goals. And so I left Apple to pursue a bigger sales career. And when I say bigger, I knew that the life I wanted, the life I dreamed about, the experiences, the travel, the cool cars, the wonderful life. I didn't think being in that role at Apple was going to be the vehicle to get me there. And I just knew intuitively that if I sold something higher ticket, bigger value, and I was paid on a commission on what I was selling, that I could get closer to affording the life I wanted. And I think I didn't know it at that point, but maybe why a lot of people get into, financial services in the insurance industry as well. And so I left Apple. I moved into a consulting role while working on some of the largest projects throughout New York City. In construction consulting, like LaGuardia Airport expansion, JFK Airport expansion, the reconstruction of the Freedom Tower and the World Trade Center, and so many others. And I got really good at that. And I learned some invaluable sales skills that I still use and train other agents, these principles of success in sales to this day. Kind of carried over what I learned at Apple and expanded upon it, working on bigger projects throughout New York City. But the thing is, when I was in construction consulting, those clients I had that I met and developed these digital marketing strategies at Apple, they still kept calling me. And so the result was that I kind of started a consulting business. This was in 2011, and we called it Juicebox. And our Juicebox has no I. Jucbox is how we spell it. Juicebox.com if you want to check us out. Well, the reason we called it that is because I wanted to be a vehicle for growth. I wanted to be, if we put their business inside of our process, you can think of our process as the container for growth. I wanted to rapidly grow their sales in a very measurable way. Like, that's ultimately something you can measure, is what great marketing is all about. And so I said, well, what are other, vehicles or containers for growth? Well, it turns out that, originally when juice was distributed, it was done so in glass containers. And that was a constraint that, once solved for, allowed juice sales to dramatically increase. When they moved from the glass container to the juice box, a new container, a new vehicle for distribution, sales went up because it was no longer fragile to distribute. It was lighter. It could move faster. They could move more of it. And we want to be that accelerant of growth for people. And so that's how we came upon the name of Juicebox. But there's also some other meanings. JB Juicebox is also my co-founder, business partner, my twin brother, the yin to my yang. We've been, having businesses with each other since we were like in the second or third grade. I think Juicebox is our ninth company, and there's others that have started on that since then. But yeah, 2011, we started Juicebox. I served all types of businesses as a marketing consultant. Sometimes, unfortunately, I was the savior CMO. I was their last ditch effort to come in and grow sales, and save their business, from failure. And along that journey, I realized I wanted to answer the question, how do we create this mutually undeniable result? And what does that mean? That means that neither I nor my client would have to argue whether or not we were being successful. And that's maybe surprising to hear, but so much of marketing is, rooted in what we call vanity metrics, right? Things that look good, make you feel good, pretty designs, vanity metrics like impressions, but you're not really making the cash register ring. And so, why I served so many businesses in 2011, I mean business types, everything from an electrician to a retail store to a hairstylist, all the way up to companies like Ferrari and Oracle and Amazon, and working inside and outside of big brands like Apple. I wanted to work with people that we could have joint accountability with. And so, ultimately I decided to exit some of the businesses I was in New York City and kind of set roots in a place where I could find those small business owners, where we could cut through the red tape and I can control the outcomes, take responsibility for my part of putting in the system and process to scale sales, and they could operate the business to manage it, the growth of that scalability, in more customers and clients to reach their goals. And so by having that joint accountability, I started going to network meetings, and, Nashville, this is like 2018, I got here, and who do you run into? You run into, people in financial services, mortgage professionals, real estate, and they all ask, hey, can you do what you did for those companies like Ferrari and Oracle, generate leads, help them sell Ferraris? Could you help me sell insurance? And so, yeah, and I realized that, focus actually magnifies power. Most people, I found in all the businesses I've consulted, whether small or large, most people are afraid to focus because they think it's narrowing their opportunity. But what I've realized to be true is, a lack of focus means that you're ultimately trying to be something for everyone. So you have no specialization, no advantage to give to the marketplace. But when you focus and you magnify your power from that focus, you become highly specialized. The result is that you become everything to someone. You become best in class, and people choose you because you serve them better than anybody else can. And the result of that is that people, will pay you a premium, and you will be more profitable. But what's really cool is that your clients win too. It's mutually beneficial. And so that was my journey. Started selling for Apple, then consulting businesses, and realizing I had to become everything to someone, niche of a niche. And now all we do is we help people who have the focus of specializing in that second phase of retirement planning. The first phase most advisors focus on is the accumulation. How do I grow this mountain of retirement savings that I can live off of in retirement? We call that the accumulation phase. Well, we focus on phase two, which is the preservation or the decumulation phase. or retirement income planning? How do you turn assets into income for life with certainty so that you can have more and worry less in retirement? And that's the focus we have today. We have a team of almost 60 people. We have hundreds of advisors that we serve and helping them scale their financial services practice with the focus of being a virtual retirement income professional. That's our specialty. So many people built their business face to face, but realized the opportunity for scalability, efficiency, and freedom is to do it all virtually. And that's where our mastery is. In fact, in the past 2 years, we don't just teach theory, we practice what we preach. And in the past 2 years, we've gone from zero to $50 million a year in virtual annuity production on our own team. But we realized that we can't serve the entire market. I learned this at Apple. Apple didn't only sell the iPhone through the Apple Store. They sell it at Best Buy, they sell it at Verizon and AT&T and so many other places around the world. So if it makes sense for the $3 trillion company Apple to have partners that share their values to distribute their product, why doesn't it make sense for us? And so that's why we don't just use our systems ourselves to scale. Um, Virtual retirement income planning professionals in their businesses and practices, whether just insurance license or maybe they have their 65 or they're a chartered financial consultant or CFP. We work with all of those people to scale completely virtual. And we don't just do it ourselves, practicing what we preach, but we license it to other people who share our values of going beyond best interest, having that fiduciary obligation and living it out by leaving people better than we found them, putting them in a better position and being completely okay if we aren't the ones to create that better position. Maybe they're already in the best position, or maybe there's someone better suited to serve them than us. And we're okay with that because we believe that doing right by people, one of my principles of success is money earned ethically is a byproduct of value creation. If there's no value to create, there's nothing to offer. Maybe the value is created by someone else and I can make that introduction and that's my value to them. And so while a lot of times people go to our YouTube channel and see things like our success of issued business and premium and maybe even commissions, they're like, wow, man, can't you just focus on the client? No, we do focus on the client. That's just the scoreboard. It's a measure of our impact because we go beyond best interest, and that is core to our value, our client focused service. When we write 10 million, that's $10 million in assets that we protected, generate income for life, and did so many other things. We put them in a better position with our solutions. And the agent, the advisor, whether they're on our team or just one of our clients that we serve with our systems proven to convert virtually, everybody won. The client mostly, the advisor second. So that's been my journey and where we are today.
Jim, if I could, so I understand this, kind of story arc of you building the experience and understanding with Apple, and then, construction and 2018 comes around and you're able to niche down. In Canada, we say niche. So don't hold that against me. But the point is, and what I'm trying to get at is, what was the moment when you realized, because now it's a niche of a niche of a niche, right? It's specifically, I think, IUL and annuity. And so, Jim, can you talk about what was the moment where you realized the focus was there? The focus was retirement income planning. How did we get to that moment?
Well, when I was in those networking meetings back in 2018, I'm running into insurance agents. The first people I started to serve, I did some mortgage, I did some real estate, and I did some insurance. So the initial focus was we actually had an acronym, REMI, real estate, RE, M mortgage, I insurance. And so I was like, there was overlap. They all tend to refer each other. There's a lot of transactions that happen around the home purchase. And so we thought that was enough focus. But so we were doing like property and casualty with companies that in the US, hey man, some of these are so big that you might even be aware of them in Canada. You ever heard of State Farm Insurance? I think they're the largest property and casualty insurer in the world by like premiums, and active enforced policies. And so I was working with a State Farm agent, and then, I started working with Allstate agents, probably one of the other really big ones, property and casualty, home and auto. You gotta insure your home and car. And so we were working with them, but the challenge I had, get back to that mutually undesirable result is that, man, we create a lot of volume of opportunity, but the value of that interaction and the cost relationship with that value, the advertising cost to generate the lead, and then the commission generated from that initial transaction of that auto insurance policy, it wasn't that exciting. He kind of broke even the first year, and that was a good result. But, most people, 85, 90% of their policies just renew every year. And it's all about this long-term residual book value. But that, wasn't we had to argue whether that was good enough. So I was like, you know what? There's got to be a better way. How do we create more value so that you would never have to say, can we make it better? And so that led me to go from property and casualty insurance, with State Farm and Allstate to life insurance. And then say, well, not just like your basic term life insurance or mortgage protection or final expense that many people in our industry would be aware of, but how do we use insurance products for retirement income planning? Remember I said I learned that lesson in the construction business, a higher ticket, which is me delivering more value, solving a bigger problem would create a bigger opportunity for both parties. I'm solving a big problem in their financial, plan, their retirement plan, and I'm earning a bigger, income because I'm solving bigger problems. And so we just kind of stair stepped our way up and said, well, then it was using index universal life policy to create a tax-free retirement structure where we use the insurance under the U.S. tax code to be a tax shelter, and we can create these like synthetic Roth type of planning vehicles. And then the next thing was that was like, well, how do we turn 401ks or IRAs or other types of retirement savings accounts into income? And so it's just, how do we increase our value, solve a bigger problem so that it just took less and less results to have an incredible outcome. And so ultimately, when we got niched down through those stair steps of a the biggest problem we can solve, we realized it was to be a specialist in retirement income planning and not just the average or, typical approach to that, which is often face to face, maybe running radio or seminar ads to get people to come into your office, but doing it in the most scalable and exciting way possible, which is do it all completely virtual. So it's pairing those two things together. It is both the outcome we're trying to deliver people, a better retirement income plan, and then doing it in the most efficient and scalable manner possible. Most people desire, but often don't believe is possible for them, which is to do it all completely virtual. I mean, we have agents that I was actually talking to one yesterday. He runs his business half of the year from Spain. He lives in Florida. That's where his resident license is. And last year he was in Spain for 6 months and closed 4.5 million completely virtual. Pretty good. Pretty good. But that's $4.5 million in assets that he protected, preserved, generated income, or solved for a bond alternative with. So he really delivered for his clients, put him in a better position, and makes a great living doing it, but does it from the place that he wants, living the life that he wants. And so it's really unlocking the potential in others and showing that virtual could be their secret weapon if they want it to be, has led me to the focus that we have today, which is retirement income planning with insurance products. And then also we opened the registered investment advisory because, man, what's suitable? 40, 50, 60%. It's just math, finding what allocation makes sense for that safe money solution. But then they trust you now. Well, what do I do with the rest of the money? So we wanted to be that holistic solution to manage that entire second phase of retirement, that preservation phase, helping you come off the mountain safely, living the life you want, have more, worry less. That's our goal and that's our focus.
Jim, a common thread that I've been hearing is this quest to add more value, to make a mutually undeniable result, I think is what you phrased it as. Can you walk me through that quest, where it started from, specific to IUL and annuities? So you're working with these life insurance agents, financial advisors. Where did it begin and then where is it now? And maybe where do you project it to be in a few years, that mutually undeniable result?
Yeah, so mutually undeniable means facts, not feelings. How do we get to objectivity? Meaning that there's nothing to argue about, and me trying to convince you. And ultimately, the way what I discovered, the best way to do that is just to do the math. We simply call it retirement math. And so, how do we get to that discovery for the individual prospect circumstance and their plan? Because this isn't financial advice. We don't give financial advice,
And
even
Jim,
for the
sorry,
people.
I'm actually talking about specifically to agents and advisors. If you can talk about not necessarily like B2C, I don't know if that's where you were going, but to the end consumer, but specifically related to the life insurance agent, financial advisor, when you started to niche down, and you were focused on delivering solutions like for the IUL and annuity agent, what did value look like in the beginning of delivering that? And then how has that evolved? Like, how is it different now than it was for the agent 5 or 7 years ago?
Yeah, so that's a great point. I mean, what I was going into matters, but it wasn't the initial, approach. The initial approach was listening to what the market said they wanted, right? And there's a lot of lessons in business. What did they say they wanted? I just need leads. Well, I'm a marketer. I can generate leads. So in the beginning, it was just satisfying that request, and it worked for some people, but not for all. And I think it ties into this lesson that, Henry Ford, I think coined, and he said, if I asked the market what they wanted, they would have answered with a faster horse. And that would have prevented him from developing the automobile and kind of the manufacturing process to do that scale and make it economically viable for the marketplace. And so in the beginning, what I asked the market, what do they want? I was in that networking meeting. They said, I need more leads. I need more opportunity to speak to. But, over time, we realized that some people had the skill that leads were enough. But for the majority of agents, advisors, and financial services, leads aren't enough. It's actually the biggest lie ever told to this industry that you just need more leads, better leads, our leads, these leads, the unicorn leads that are so good that you just show up and close. And what I realize is that is an absolute lie. And I think maybe people listening to this right now or watching this, have probably suffered some version of the consequences of that lie. And I was party to it because I just accepted it in the beginning, but after a while, because I cared about them actually getting the result, and the result that you want isn't a lead. It isn't a meeting on your calendar. It isn't more conversations. It's actually implementing your solutions to the problems you uncover in the process, such as your clients are in a better position and you've issued products that you got paid on, right? That's the result that you want. Yes, leads are a part of it, but we've discovered over time that they were only a third of the equation at best. You need a proven system to implement to convert those leads in a completely virtual environment, leveraging a concept we call tokens of trust. How do you demonstrate trust? It's the ultimate currency in a transaction. It's vitally important in a virtual, medium of selling. How do you do that? What is the process that's proven, and how is it different from selling face to face? And then what is the system, the community of support of other like-minded agents that are doing exactly what you want to do? They have the results you want. And how do you have access to them so they can say, yeah, I did this yesterday. Here's what you need to do. Here's the change you need to make. Hey, when you do this in person, you can get away with X, but when you're doing it virtually, you need to focus on Y. And so the evolution, Jared, as you asked, is it started with just leads. Now, leads are a part of it, but for many people, they're not the start of it. They don't need to have any leads. They don't have a lead problem. They have a process problem. To be honest, the process below it is how do you demonstrate value? We say your expertise earns you the business. How do you become valuable to your client that they say, well, what can you do for me? Hey, can you help me with this? How do you get them asking you to move forward to a better position in their retirement? And that all starts with how you present yourself, how you show up, how you create value way before you ever introduce a product. And so that was the evolution. Leads, then a proven process. What's different about that process in virtual that you don't have to worry about selling face to face? That was the discovery of tokens of trust. And then what's the community of support? What are the coaching processes? What does the access look like? So you can have the accountability to make the shift, to go from being just a life agent who's a product peddler who says, you need life insurance, or man, you got assets, let me sell you an annuity for income or protection. And you just, yeah, if you're selling that way, you have a cap and you're in your own interest, not in their best interest, because you're just peddling product, pushing products to people, trying to convince people. And man, is that exhausting and limiting for you and them. And you'll hit a ceiling. And if you sell that way in the virtual environment, you won't be selling much.
What was the epiphany moment for you that made you realize that it wasn't just about leads anymore?
It was realizing that we were running campaigns all throughout the country and the same marketing, same targeting, same lead opportunities were being generated. And the only difference was the agent, and some people were failing and some people were being wildly successful. The difference is break even or losing money versus 5 to 10x. And the marketing wasn't the difference. The leads wasn't the difference. It was the person and more importantly, who they were being and how they were showing up to the process. And so the way I discovered that and got really clear that it was who they were being and what they were offering and how they were demonstrating value in their process, especially in a virtual environment, I discovered that because had to get licensed myself. I had to step into the driver's seat of the vehicle and say, because if I ask my clients, why are you successful? The ones that were getting that 5 to 10x ROI, they would just say, oh man, your leads are awesome. It's like, but they have the same leads. Right? And I say, well, what else is it? I just run the script. Yeah, but they get the script and we give away the script on our YouTube channel and in our private community, our free one, Advanced Market Life Agents. So I don't think it's just the script. Sure, that's a piece of it. What's truly the difference? And they all had unconscious competence. They could not articulate how others could do what they do. But that's my gift. A mentor of mine early on at Apple, he said, your gift is learning agility. Learn, do to great effect the result, and then teach it. And teaching is to learn twice. And so I was able to cycle through this in any area. So I got into the driver's seat, got licensed, as an insurance producer and then figure out what the difference was. And I uncovered what is a success formula that's at play in everything. It comes from a famous author, Stephen R. Covey's Be, Do, Have. Who do you need to be so that you can do something different to have a better result? And we break that down more specifically on our YouTube channel. I can go into it a bit here, but I learned that by becoming licensed and going and say, this isn't just principles of sales success, but it's principles in practice. And then how do we mold these principles of success that I learned at Apple, that I implemented to a greater effect in big ticket construction consulting? And then I said, oh, how does it then apply here? And how do we get so specific that you could see these principles in practice? You don't have to translate the universal principles, but you could see them applied by other producers who are closing the business you want completely virtual.
You talked about the virtual component there, Jim. What do agents advisors need to know about this shift to virtual? Like, what are some of the most important lessons to know about making that transition?
I think the biggest sticking points are for the advisors that have had success offline but have unable to crack the code online. Those people, because if you don't have any success, well, then when we teach you our proven process, it's the only thing you know. What's often harder for the people offline is that they're doing something, they have a process, but it's often like unconscious to them. They don't know exactly what they're doing, and it kinda sounds like this. It's like, "Yeah, man, when I'm just face to face with somebody, I just kinda feel it out." It's like intuitive, right? It's, I often call it like this belly to belly energy, right? And it's these unconscious, like what I call tokens of trust that are at play that you're just not considering. Hey, they heard you for a while on the radio or saw you as the expert in front of the room running the seminar, and some of that resonated. And then they made the commitment such that they came to your office. And this feels like a financial professional's office. This is kind of where we do retirement income planning. You're dressed like an advisor. This feels like the right conversation. These materials are real. That's my plan. Yeah, let's do this. And these are all the things that exist in the physical reality of face-to-face setting that most people aren't conscious to how they are elevating trust and ultimately leading towards a transaction with that trust. Well, almost none of those are true in a virtual selling environment, but you didn't realize that. And that's why people fail in making the transition, is because, well, they often have the wrong identity. So they're making the wrong type of offer and having the wrong conversation, not creating the right type of value in a virtual selling environment. And so we help people make that shift and say, well, how do you need to, you need to be more systematic because you didn't have all those other tokens of trust, all those other things that made them feel like, ah, man, this all feels right. How do you orchestrate that when somebody literally 15 seconds after an ad resonated with them, they're in your pipeline. 5 minutes later, you're calling them. It wasn't 2 years of listening to you on the radio, then committing enough, believing enough to get in their car, drive across town, show up in your office, then, go into your conference room and have a conversation with someone who looks and feels and sounds like a financial professional. None of that's true. We have to be systematic. How do we lead people forward and orchestrate trust where there's an absence of it at the start because of how much more compressed the virtual selling process is? It doesn't feel compressed to you, though, right? If you're selling offline, because you weren't party to all the other time they spent. In the virtual environment, you are the orchestrator of it. They opt in and they're on the phone with you 5 minutes, and the rest of the process is handled with you and your team and your systems and processes. Whereas often it's asynchronous, meaning they listen to you on the radio and they make all these other commitments absence of your presence. And when you can become conscious of that and then translate the difference and go through training that shows you the difference, gives you the toolkit of these new tokens for our virtual selling environment, the result can be dramatically different. And you start to have the things like where we had people go from $0 to $10 million plus a year, completely virtual, in 2 years, right? And so it's because they understand the difference. Some of those people never had the offline consideration of tokens. It's a little bit harder, but once you confront the reality and see the difference, it can unlock your world, right? And so sometimes it's a little bit harder for the people who've had the offline success because they think there's only one way to do it. And there's many ways to bake a cake, right? But if you buy the Betty Crocker, you want it to taste like they make it look like on the box, you should follow their recipe. And the same thing is true for us. We have a recipe for success. It's so proven that we can guarantee it for the people who are willing to be adaptable and coachable and implement it, install it, copy and paste it into their business. It's not the only way to succeed. It's the one that we guarantee, though. And so, yeah, that was kind of the evolution of the process and realizing, and coining that idea of these tokens of trust because it makes all the difference. Just a new set of tokens. You need a new set of tools. Listen, if you're going to build something that floats in the water, the toolkit, the materials are likely different than if you're going to build a house. There's just a different set of materials and tools to, you can live in a houseboat, you can live in the mountains, right? And the way you build the house is probably going to be a little bit different. And the same thing is true here. The way you sell offline face to face is a bit different than how you sell online and virtually on platforms like Zoom.
Jim, you mentioned people want easy often, right? And the easy in the world that you're coming from is leads, like just feeding into that belief that leads is a solution. And so give people more leads. The hard thing is to become the person who deserves the business and wins the business through expertise and demonstrating capability and skills and tools and a system. What do you say to the person who's still coming in saying, I just want, give me the leads that doesn't really accept the idea and the challenge that they have to step up themselves?
Yeah, a couple questions come to mind. The first one that just immediately top of mind is, well, it's a statement really. Leads don't convert themselves. Skilled professionals do. I know you have the wrong mindset and you've suffered the lie and will bear its consequences of that leads are enough. The whole industry sells you on leads, 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 right? And they can anything that's got a name, email, and phone number, they can call a lead. How cheap can they generate it to maximize their profit and selling it to you? That's what a lead vendor is. We're not, because we actually help people issue business. So then you have to start to think about, well, how do you generate the lead? What's their intention through that marketing funnel so that when they wind up in your CRM and pipeline, that they actually expect to work with you to resolve a pretty clear problem, right? And so the marketing starts to matter, but the process that integrates with the marketing matters as well, because even a higher intent, higher quality lead, like I said, our best clients, the best results, they say our leads are great, but you can give those same leads to an unskilled person and get no results. And so even as a marketer, we accept the reality that leads don't convert themselves. And so my question then that I ask, if you're saying, well, how do the leads convert? Well, you expecting the leads to convert themselves. If that were true, you wouldn't be necessary. You wouldn't have a job, right? And my follow-up question to you would be, well, how's that been going for you? Why haven't you found the leads? I can show you 10 places to get an IUL or annuity lead. Why are you talking to us? I'm the only one that's going to tell you the truth, that even as good as our agents say our leads are, that you are destined for failure if you think leads are enough, even good leads. And there are degrees of leads, but the thing is like, I was talking to an agent the other day. He's doing 5 to 10 million offline, wants to go online because he's tired of, the cycle of the seminar marketing, the feast and famine nature, the high cost, potential low reward, the waning efficacy. He's tired of all these things and wants to shift to online. But he thinks he's so good that if he gets a lead that they'll buy, and if they don't, it's their fault. And that mindset is going to keep you stuck, right? You need to implement the proven process, the different approach. I was talking about tokens of trust, right? And realize and accept responsibility. If it's to be, it's up to me. I have to be the value creator, and I have to remove the resistance and friction in the virtual process so they see me different. Because your expertise earns you the business, and you have to demonstrate expertise. And the way you do it virtually is different. And so, yeah, that's, what you have to accept that reality. And to the extent you don't, well, I can probably prove by answering a few questions to say, well, you could buy leads from anywhere. How has that gone? Because every place that is just a lead vendor just sells you leads, they don't accept responsibility for how do you turn leads into clients. And there's a sequence. And we find that there's actually 11 steps between a closed lead and a closed client that's been issue paid. And every breakdown between each of those links in those 11 steps is a leak in your bucket of profitability that can change you from 5 to 10x to 20x ROI to being completely negative if you don't understand those. And it doesn't have to be complicated. 11 steps sounds complicated, but it's just a sequence. It's just a sequence. And if you line up that sequence properly, you can knock it down one domino at a time, and it can fall into place pretty effortlessly if you just respect the sequence. Leads aren't enough. What you do with those leads, the skill you wield with them, the value you demonstrate to them is what makes the difference.
Jim, how important has mentorship been in your journey to where you are now, specifically within the niche, the IUL annuity space? Has there been somebody important in your life in that way? And if you could kind of speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, education is everything for me. If I want to increase my value in the marketplace so I can earn more value. I think it was Zig Ziglar. He says, if you help enough people get what they want, you can get what you want. And if you want to help more people, you got to become more valuable. And so pursuing education, mentorship asynchronously or directly is a vital part of increasing your value. And so I've done that through books and programs. I spent well over $500,000 in getting access to the rooms and the people who had the skills, capability, and most importantly, mindset that I want. And over that journey, it led me to getting all types of mentors. One of Daniel Pink, Gay Hendrick. Like, these are guys that you've interviewed on our podcast. I love their books. To Sell is Human, Drive, right? Autonomy, Mastery, and Purpose, The Big Leap. These are all like principles. These are, I consider those guys mentors. You've had the opportunity to interview them on your podcast. Incredible. And so there's broad mindset of success principles, and then there's very specific. And I've had the opportunity to first serve a mentor of mine as a client, and then have the mentorship, the education, the growth and development go both ways. Someone came to me as a client. His name's Mike. Over the time, I realized, man, he's incredibly successful, and we can grow together. $700 million career producer in this industry, and we had a lot of values alignment. He just wanted to lead people better than he found them, and realized that if he couldn't do that, he pointed them to somebody who could. I've learned a lot from Mike and been able to teach a lot to Mike, and we grow together. And I said, Mike had that unconscious competence, 700 million career producer, no downline. He didn't have this complete, how everyone else tells you to do it, recruit, recruit, recruit. No, he did that all himself, scaling a staff in his office, right? But in working with him, and when he came to us as a marketing client, still he's running our campaigns today to scale his business. I think he just kissed $100 million in personal annuity production last year. And you know the thing about Mike is he had that unconscious competence. And so when I got stepped into the vehicle myself, become licensed, I was getting on calls with him and not asking him what he did, but watching what he did, and I became the translator, right? The Be Like Mike translator. And I created systems around that, and then modified them and scaled them. And so I could help other people, because Mike's gift was to have that unconscious competence. And when I studied sitting next to Mike and was closing millions of dollars in production myself, having him as the co-pilot, like Top Gun style, I was able to see and package up what he was doing so that others could do it too, to the degree that they wanted to. Maybe it wasn't doing $100 million a year. Maybe it was doing 10 or 20, or maybe 5 or 2. What are your goals? What is the production demand? What type of value do you need to create in the marketplace? So Mike's been a huge mentor, ultimately became a business partner. And to this day, it flows all ways, in that he is a client, runs multiple campaigns. He's a mentor. He's a business partner. He's my coach. I'm his coach. It's an incredibly rewarding relationship. And he's certainly the highest quality relationship I have specific to this niche. But also, I can count. I don't have enough hands and feet, toes and fingers to count all the people that I would still be a mentor. So many people, it's like, will you mentor me? They ask those questions, and I'll give you 2 pieces of advice on that if you're looking for mentorship. The first one is that to be mentored by someone, you don't have to get them on the phone. With podcasts and audiobooks and books and all these things, like, they can be your mentor. And this goes into the second piece of advice. Everyone can be your mentor. If they put out content, they can be your mentor. I call Tony Robbins my mentor, and all those other people, that you've interviewed on your podcast. They are mentors of mine. They just don't know it, but they put out that book. And the most rewarding thing that you can do for a mentor is to follow through on what they teach, is to implement, is to iterate and show results, and to win. And so if you want mentorship from people, one of the things, I have this book right here. I give it to all of my clients, exactly what to say, the magic words that influence impact, from Phil M. Jones. And I bought 1,000 plus copies of that book, and I now have a direct relationship with him. And so when you implement and you lead with value and create value for them by showing what they teach is worth something to you, enough to apply it, then that is really rewarding, and you will grow relationships with the mentors you wish when you apply the foundational principles they've already taught. You don't need to hear that from them one on one. They put it in a book, they record it on a podcast. Start there and say, thank you so much. This happened to me the other day. A guy came to my free community. He bought this, I don't know, it's like a $50, $60 like mini workshop that we teach on how to structure IULs as a retirement income plan. He took that workshop that he spent $50 on roughly and implemented it in the past 6 months, issued $5 million in annuity premium from a $50 investment. On that page when we sell that, I don't even know if we offer it right now. Maybe we'll link it below this video if you want to get it. And I'm not even going to say that you're going to do this. He is special. He applied himself. He iterated. He failed, adjusted, right? He said, if it's to be, it's up to me. And this is a tool that I can leverage with the right skill set. But $5 million in issued business. And he's like, dude, there's a whole nother level to this. I have a webinar next week of 400 people. I'll get 100 plus appointments from it. And I think I'm leaving 10 times the premium on the table. That means I'm not helping the people I should and creating this mutual benefit. And so he wants to work with us more. Well, you can do that too. You can go out and buy books. You can watch our YouTube channel. You can get in our free community, or you can invest at the high level to accelerate your process. How committed are you to your goals? And getting what you want. And so, man, mentors are everywhere. The best thing you could do is just realize that learning's on the other side of doing. You have to implement, you have to take action, imperfect action, and you iterate to a level of the skill that a professional wields. But you got to get started.
Jim, being mission driven came up earlier, I think. And so just to close the loop on that, what is the mission that you guys are on right now? What's the target? Where are you going?
So, we often talk about like scale of maybe premium and production because we know that is just the quantifiable measurement of the positive impact we can make on the consumers we serve and through the advisors that we serve them. Uh, and so for us, like my mission right now is to help 100 agents shift away from being just a life agent and elevating to seeing themselves as a retirement income professional, using that life insurance license and being that insurance producer, technically, but elevating to a higher value proposition to the marketplace. I want to help 100 people do that at the top 1% level to become virtual retirement income professionals, the top 1% producers, all completely virtual. The key is that virtual retirement income professional and be those ripple makers of positive impact. That's our mission. I want to, amass the 100. I'm looking for one of the 100 at a time. And I know we do 100 will be 1,000. And along the way, we're going to have thousands of people that we help become top 10% producers. But me, I'm driven by collecting the 100 top 1% producers because the ripple effect, the positive impact that they, you think of that stone you drop in the pond and you see that ripple. They are the center of that ripple, and they are ripple makers with us on that mission because we know we leave people better than we found them. We put them in a better position. And I want to partner with agents who want to be those ripple makers of positive impact and create massive value in the marketplace and participate in that value creation in having their household be in the position that they want to be and have such abundance that they can enhance and drive value as a ripple maker in their community and the charities and causes that they care about. So that's what my mission is, really unlocking the potential in others to become those incredible ripple makers of positive impact.
I think it'd be a great time to do some kind of rapid type of questions just to get through some stuff at the end of this interview. If we could, Jim, you brought up virtual. What is like something tactical right now that agents and advisors maybe listening to this interview, what is one thing that they can take away and implement right now? Mindset shift, strategy that they can use to start selling more IUL and annuity virtually?
Show, don't tell. Seeing is believing. Don't think that you have to be the one to convince them. Let math can be the persuader. And so you need to understand the most respected principles of retirement planning, safe withdrawal rates, average growth rates, income rates between risk accounts and no risk accounts, and be able just to objectively, facts not feelings, reflect their reality and say, here's where you're heading given the principles of retirement math. And hey, if we tweak a couple of these numbers, here's where you could be. Which one would you like? Let the numbers show them. So seeing is believing. Show, don't tell.
Where does the industry go in 5 years?
Where does the industry go? I mean, I think more and more people love the efficiency of virtual, and that, time is the unrenewable asset that, which is true for you and your clients. And so I think more and more people are going to wish that they could achieve the best result completely virtual. One of my top producing advisors, he says, "Well, do you care more about having somebody in your zip code or getting the best strategy for you? And are you willing to give up your zip code, meaning meet with somebody virtual, maybe in a completely different state to get what you want and be in the best position possible for your retirement?" I think that's more true. I think the pandemic accelerated that. And I think the opportunity is for you to seize that opportunity and have the skill of being a virtual retirement income professional. I think it's just going to be more and more prevalent and more expected over the next 5 years from clients of advisors.
What's the number one piece of advice for the agent advisor? They're at $2 million in production and they want to get to 10.
You need a repeatable and scalable process. You can't have a strategy of hope. If what you're doing is working, you ask yourself, is it, can you double it and triple it to get to your goals? And if you can't, what is the system that is proven to do so, and pursue that? You can't have that sunk cost fallacy. It's what I know, but if it ain't going to get you to where you want to go, you need to find the vehicle that will.
One book every agent and advisor should read, and why?
I think it's an author, and I would read these two in sequence. Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art, and it basically helps you realize how to break through and dissolve the resistance that keeps you from acting on something that you feel that resistance towards, where your fear is doing something new, applying something new, shifting from offline to online, selling from face to face to selling to virtual. I would read The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield, and after you read that, I would read his sequel that's less known called Turning Pro, and it's going to give you the mindset of what you need to break through to make a shift and elevate your value, your impact, and your income in the process.
Jim, thank you. Is there anything else you want agents and advisors to know about Juicebox?
This isn't theory. We built these systems, these tools, these tokens, this marketing for us. We use it ourselves, but we realize we can't achieve the level of impact that we want and serve the marketplace the way we know we can by doing it all ourselves. I gave you the metaphor. Apple doesn't sell the iPhone just through their stores, and we don't offer our retirement income specialty strategies, tools to the marketplace just through our own agents. And so I would invite you to head over to my YouTube channel, Jim Fischer, or just search Juicebox with no I, and see how many people have been able to follow what we teach and implement it themselves. I'm not saying that your results are going to be exactly like theirs, because I don't know the work you're going to bring to the table, the experiences, the tenacity that you're going to have to skill up to the level of professional impact and income. But I know the system is capable of it if you develop yourself within it. And so understand that we practice what we preach, and people pay us to copy and paste it into their business so they too can have the opportunity of going completely virtual and all the benefits that come along with that, being a virtual retirement income professional, using your life insurance license to be that top 1% annuity producer, adding $5 to $10 million or more. Whether you want to do that year, we have people that consistently do $1 million months, and there's certainly people leveraging our system doing 9 figures a year in premium. And so what level do you want? The system and toolkit can get you there if you apply it properly. So come check us out on YouTube.
Jim, thank you so much for joining us today. And for the listeners, if you want to learn more about Jim and Juicebox, find them online. Just like Jim said, there is no I, Jucebox, juicebox.com. Jim, thank you so much for your time today.
It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate it.